Welcome back everybody, I'm Glenn McGowan, this is Atlas Bowen. So I had realized two things recently. I had just put new wheels on my car last video, which is essentially a week ago, and after looking at it, taking pictures and filming it, I realized that I don't like the wheels. I actually chose the wrong ones, and you know, it took me forever to get them in, and now that they're on the car, I just can't stand looking at it anymore. And I immediately, it was like a Saturday, I put them on and filmed it. Like the next day, within 24 hours, I ordered new wheels that should be here in about 2 days, which we'll get to in a separate video once I get them, which are essentially those, but silver, they're not gold. It's a BBS LM rep. So besides that, I also noticed that I really want to lower the car a little bit more. There's about like another like quarter inch or so I'd like to come down all the way around, and I was waiting to adjust the suspension till I got the wheels on the car. Even though these aren't the ones that I'm going to go with, they're roughly the same. The front wheels are 9-inch wide in the front, which I didn't want to run. I wanted to run an 8-inch wide rim. So luckily when I bought these new wheels that'll be here, they are 18 by 8 in the front and 18 by 9 in the rear. Essentially what I wanted to get originally, but I had an issue with the golds matching and stuff like that. So I'm getting what I want now, but in more of a silver color. So I think that'll work a lot better with the car, because when I look at this thing, all I keep seeing is like an early 2000s Honda Civic Si, like JDM style, and it's not what I wanted to do with the car at all. So, you know, we'll get to that when I get the new wheels on. We'll get some shots, do a little video or something like that with that. But where I'm at with lowering the car is that I have ECS tuning coilovers on it, which I like it. They're awesome. I've had them on there probably about a month or so now and haven't had any issues, but time will tell. But I feel like it's a pretty decent product so far. So they are down all the way. So I don't really have any more room to adjust them down. So I had an idea. They have these 2 locking collars. So if you're not into slamming your car and you have them on there for performance reasons, which most people do, you have a collar to lock the spring in place, and then you have a collar to actually lock the spring and top strut assembly or coilover assembly into the body of the coilover. So I was thinking that I'm going to remove one of those collars and try to lock the front strut with the spring and the top lock collar if that's possible. And just that quarter inch out of the coilover should give me enough, you know, drop in the front to get me where I want. If not, I'll have to put it back in and just be settled with it. But the rear's the same thing. There's like a cup at the bottom and it has 2 collars, the same thing essentially, I believe. So I'm gonna just take everything back off and see what kind of wiggle room I got just to bring this thing down just maybe a quarter of an inch. But I'm gonna measure it real quick just so we have kind of like a base mark where to go from, and then we'll start taking everything apart.
This week's video is brought to you by LCO BMW Parts. Visit our online store for E36, E46, and E90 parts, or follow us on Instagram at LCO BMW. All the links are in the description below.
So I'm gonna start with the front. I'm gonna just essentially get a center line measurement to the fender. Now it's not gonna be 100% accurate, but I'm gonna essentially take, you know, right here from the ground, kind of center it in the logo of the rim, and I'm about 24.5 inches off the ground. So I'll make a note of that, and I'll do the rear one real quick. Same thing here. And that's roughly 25 inches.
All right, so let's zoom in here so I'll show you what I'm talking about. So these are all 3 of the collars. This one is for your spring. This one locks the spring collar down. This one actually locks the top of this into the body of the coilover. So my plan is to remove one of these collars here. So at that point, I'm gonna unhook this and unthread this completely, run this back in, and then tighten this down onto this, essentially locking this onto the body, since this will be able to spin freely, and that should give me the gap that I need, in theory. So same thing with the back here. Underneath there's 2 of these collars here, and it's the same thing. You lock this into place, but I've seen people actually not run these cups in here and stuff like that, but I'm not trying to go that low, so I figured just taking one of those out should do the trick. All right, so I undid the sway bar end link here from the top, and I'm just taking out the pinch bolt and then drop the whole knuckle assembly down, and then I'll be able to unscrew it. Just like that. Okay, so I got everything loose. I'm just gonna unscrew this whole thing down here. This way you don't have to take the whole coilover out of the car and stuff like that. You can just drop it and unscrew it, which is super easy. There we go. And now same thing here with this bottom one. All right, so I got the body back up in here. Now, if you look close here, there's a gap. So this means that that long threaded piece is bottomed out down in here. So this is essentially as low as it can go. So what I'm gonna do is just bolt this back in place, and then I'm gonna lock the spring down on here. And it's still a decent amount of space to lower it, so that should probably do the trick. Okay, for the rear, first things first, I'm gonna unbolt the shock here at the bottom, and then the whole suspension will sag, and then I should be able to pull the spring out. So this cup is actually bolted to the lower control arm. So to make my life a little easier, I'm just gonna unthread those collars, pull the one off and thread it right down, just in case I have to put it back in or something like that. It just cuts down a little bit of time to unbolting that from the control arm, because it's hard to kind of get in there. So I'll just try that approach at first. I do have a full install video that I did of these coilovers. If you haven't seen that and you're curious about putting them on your cars, you can check that out too. So it's pretty tight, so I'm actually just going to unbolt this. I think it's the way I put it in, because even if I push down on this hard, it's not gonna come out that easy because that cup's in place there. I'd have to lift the spring up and over. So I'm just gonna unbolt it for now. All right, so I'm bolted the cup. Now I'm just using my pry bar here to push down the suspension to pop this thing out. Like that. There's a cup, and I'll take that bottom collar out. All right, so I got this rear cup here, and I'm just gonna show you a couple options if you wanted to go super low. The safe way, I mean, I guess you could technically just remove this and hang the spring in the cup, but probably not the best thing. So you could just do what I'm doing, run this back down like that. Or you could, if you wanted to go lower, you could just take this rubber piece and put this on here, and then use this as your bottom mount, which would work probably just as well. It's the same concept here. You just don't have the collar adjustability like you do with these. But if you want to go super low, you could essentially probably just run this with a rubber sleeve on there. All right, so got the cup back together with just the one lock collar in there. I'm gonna put this back in. Okay, so I got the driver's side done. I'm gonna throw the wheels back on it right now and sit it down just to make sure it's not too low or anything like that before I even go into the other side, just so I don't have to do it all over again. I'll just throw the wheels back on it real quick, and then we'll get it on the ground. So that was like the perfect amount. So as you can see, there's like no wheel well gap there. And the same in the rear here. So I'm just gonna take a quick measurement and see how much it brought it down. Okay.
So now it's down to 24.25. So it came down about 1/4 of an inch, which is kind of perfect. There's still plenty of room in here, so I don't think I'll have any issues, especially when I go into an 8-inch wide wheel. So I think it looks pretty good for now. And plus, I really can't go any lower at this point. So check the back real quick. Yeah, same thing, about 1/4 of an inch or so. So I think that fits in there perfectly too. So that's the same size wheel and tire that I'm gonna run anyway, so that should be perfect. New passenger side. One thing I do love about these cars is that they're so simple to work on. I don't really like stereotypes Beamers as being like, oh, it's German, it's complicated. Like these early 2000s, late 90s Beamers are like the best ones. All right, so unfortunately I'm at a stopping point right now. So while I was doing this, my new wheel showed up, which is awesome. So it is like Sunday here now. So I ended up sending them out to a local tire shop that was open to have the tires swapped over. So I have all 4 coilovers adjusted and ready to go. So essentially I need my wheels to put the thing on the ground, so I can't really finish this video, unfortunately, but I'll do like a part 2 when I get my new wheels, get everything on, and then we can look at it with the final adjustments and with the new wheels. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.